Have you ever wished you could rewind time, to undo a mistake, or relive a moment? But what if turning back the clock trapped you instead, locked you inside your own past, watching life slip through your fingers like sand? That's exactly what happened to Jack when he bought an antique hourglass from a flea market, never expecting it to control his very existence. Jack wasn't a superstitious man. That morning, wandering through the crowded stalls, he was drawn to one object above all, a fragile hourglass, its glass case delicately carved with twisting vines, the sand inside shimmering like crushed pearls. The dealer, an old man with sharp eyes, warned him quietly, "Don't flip it, not ever." But Jack chuckled, brushing off the words as nonsense. He thought of it as just a cool decoration for his apartment, something timeless, but harmless. That night, curiosity gnawed at him. He turned the hourglass over. The sand began to fall, slow and steady. Then something strange happened. The room around him blurred, shadows stretching and shrinking, time folding like paper. Suddenly, Jack found himself somewhere else, inside a scene from his own past. He was there, but not really. He was a ghost, invisible and unheard, watching a younger version of himself argue with a woman he barely recognized. The moment was intimate, raw, and achingly familiar. He wanted to scream, to reach out, but his mouth was silent, his hands locked in place. When the sand finished, Jack blinked and he was back in his apartment. But it wasn't the same. The clock on the wall was spinning wildly. Minutes rushed past like seconds. The phone rang, but when he answered, no one was there. He tried to shake it off as a trick of his mind. Exhaustion, maybe. Yet the next time he flipped the hourglass, it happened again. This time he woke up standing in his childhood home, but it was empty. No laughter, no furniture, just silence. He wandered through the rooms, heart pounding. Memories swirled but felt distorted, like a dream fading upon waking. The people he knew had vanished: his parents, his friends, even his own reflection. He tried to call out, but no sound came. The world was gone, replaced by a ghostly void. Panicking, Jack realized the hourglass wasn't just showing him his past. It was pulling him deeper into it. Each flip sent him to a different point, but with one terrifying difference. The world was changing. Faces he remembered were missing. Places looked unfamiliar. It was as if reality itself was unraveling, and he was powerless to stop it. Desperation clawed at him. Jack tried everything, locking the hourglass away, burying it, even smashing it with a hammer. But the glass wouldn't shatter. Each time he touched it, he was sucked back into the endless loop, trapped between moments that slipped further and further from the life he knew. The more he tried to change things in his past, the more unpredictable and cruel the shifts became. Loved ones disappeared without warning, memories faded like smoke, and the line between time and nightmare blurred. One night, Jack awoke gasping, the hourglass empty at his side. But he wasn't in his apartment anymore. He was standing in a shadowy alley he'd never seen before. A thick fog curled around the street lamps. The air smelled of rot and something metallic. Fear. As he moved forward, he heard a whisper behind him. "Why do you try to fight what you don't understand?" His blood ran cold. He spun around but saw no one. The whisper came again, this time a voice that sounded like his own. "You're not in control. You never were." The hourglass glittered in his hand, alive with a dark pulse. Jack realized then that the hourglass wasn't just a relic. It was a prison, and he was the prisoner. Time wasn't his to command. It was a force that bent and twisted him, feeding on his fear and confusion. With every flip, he was losing himself, becoming less of the man he once was. As dawn crept in, Jack faced a chilling truth. There was no undoing this, no escape from the endless spinning of the hourglass. Only more flips, more fractures of his life. And somewhere in the distance, a voice waited, patient, cruel, eternal. He had to decide, surrender to the madness or find a way to break the cycle. But how do you fight a force that controls your past, present, and future? How do you fight time itself? Jack reached for the hourglass again. Jack's fingers trembled around the hourglass as the whispered words echoed in his mind. Time wasn't just slipping through him, It was reshaping him, carving away at the edges of who he was, until all that remained was this desperate, fragile shell. The fog around him thickened, and the alley dissolved into darkness. He felt as though he was falling, but no ground came to meet him. When he opened his eyes, he was back in his apartment. The familiar clutter felt alien. He scanned the room, heart hammering. The hourglass sat on the table, its sand frozen halfway through its fall. He wanted to smash it again, but he knew it would only pull him deeper. Instead, he tried to think. There had to be a way to break this cycle. Some secret in the dealer's warning he had ignored. Flipping it once more, Jack braced himself. He was thrown into a childhood birthday party, his own. But the scene was wrong. His friends' faces were blurred, the colors faded. He saw his mother, but her eyes were hollow, her smile forced. He reached out to her, but she turned away, disappearing into the shadows. The room grew colder, the laughter turning into whispers of doubt and regret. Jack felt the weight of every lost chance pressed down on him. Each time the sand ran out, he snapped awake somewhere new, each place more fragmented than the last. One moment he was at his first job interview, his confident smile replaced by doubt and fear. The next he was sitting alone in a cafe, watching a stranger who looked like him live a life he didn't recognize. It was like watching his own existence shatter into countless shards, each reflecting a different version of what might have been. Jack's mind frayed. He begged for release, but the hourglass held him tighter with every turn. In this distorted reality, people he loved didn't remember him. His own memories slipped through his grasp. He wasn't living life. He was trapped watching it, powerless to change anything. One night, lost in a fragment where the world was coated in a dull gray, Jack saw a figure approaching, a woman cloaked in shadows, her face half hidden, but her eyes sharp and knowing. "You can't fight the hourglass," she said softly, voice both a warning and a promise. "But you can listen." "Listen to what?" Jack asked, voice raw with desperation. "To the moments it shows you. It's not just a curse, it's a message." She stepped closer, and Jack noticed her hands held a similar hourglass, cracked and dusty. "This is how it begins, and this is how it ends." Jack reached out, but she was gone, leaving only a chill and the whisper of sand falling. He clutched the hourglass tighter. What if the dealer's warning wasn't just superstition? What if the hourglass was a test, a puzzle with pieces he hadn't yet seen? Days and nights blurred together. Jack stopped flipping the hourglass, hoping to stall the madness, but the cycle continued. Time raced without mercy, dragging him through memories that weren't his to relive. The lines between past and present dissolved, leaving him floating in a limbo of lost moments. In a rare calm, Jack closed his eyes and focused. He forced himself to remember one thing, a promise he made to his little sister before she died, promising to protect her, to never forget. Suddenly, the hourglass warmed in his hand. The sand reversed, climbing back up, defying gravity. The room shifted. Jack opened his eyes, standing in a place he hadn't seen in years, his sister's grave, under a sky heavy with stars. There, etched in stone, was a name he barely whispered, Amara. Jack sank to his knees, tears carving paths down his face. He realized the hourglass wasn't just showing him his past, it was forcing him to face the pain he had buried deep. The memories, the loss, the regrets, all the things he'd tried to outrun. And then it hit him. The hourglass wasn't the enemy. His refusal to confront what was broken inside him was. With trembling hands, Jack flipped the hourglass again, this time with a calm he hadn't felt in weeks. The world swirled and settled. He was at the hospital the day Amar had been admitted. The fear in his mother's eyes, the sterile smell, the helplessness. But this time, Jack wasn't invisible. He could speak. He could move. He reached for his sister's hand, and she squeezed it back. He whispered promises he hadn't kept. "Sorry, love. Stay strong." The hourglass ran out, and Jack woke again. But now the world was different. The colors were sharper, the air warmer. The fragments of his past didn't feel like prisons, but pieces of a story he was beginning to understand. Jack flipped the hourglass one last time. He found himself back in his apartment. The dealer was there, waiting. "You've learned what it means," the old man said quietly. "Time is not a chain, it's a circle. You can't change the past, but you can choose how you carry it forward." Jack nodded, exhausted but free. The dealer took the hourglass gently. Some things are meant to teach, not to trap. Jack watched as the dealer walked away, the hourglass disappearing into the night. He was alone again, but this time he wasn't afraid. Because Jack finally understood, time wasn't his enemy. It was a reminder to live, to love, and to let go.